Today we are going to be making this Tyrese Haliburton build on NBA 2K24. This build is an insane offensive threat that could score at all three levels and is an amazing playmaker. Now Tyrese has actually been playing really well in the NBA recently. Over the past 2 games, he's had 58 points, 32 assists with 0 turnovers. Now that 32 assists with 0 turnovers sounds like it should be a record of some sort, but surprisingly, the record for most consecutive assists with no turnovers is actually 40, and it's held by none other than Tyrese Haliburton. So this is a thing that he does pretty consistently. With that being said, man, let's get started with today's video. Let's go. All right, so let's get started making this build. We're actually going to be going point guard position, height 6'6", weight 180 pounds with a 6'11" wingspan. Now Tyrese Haliburton is listed at 6'5", but for some reason in this year's game, you just get more attributes to work with on a build when going 6'6", so I made him an inch taller. All right, so starting things off in the finishing, we're going to have an 88 driving layup, which is going to get you fearless finisher on gold, as well as float game on Hall of Fame, which are both really great badges to have in this year's game. And then we're also going to have a 65 driving dunk. Now with that 65 driving dunk, you're going to get a bunch of really good dunk animations, which include your athletic hangs off one. All right, but now let's take a look at some of these finishing highlights. Driving right to the lane, the floaters, like I mentioned earlier, they're going to be fantastic on this build. It's definitely the thing that I go to the most for sure, because it's just hard to get to the paint with just anything other than a floater. All right, so now moving on to the shooting, we're going to have a 93 mid-range shot, which is going to get you catch and shoot on Hall of Fame, as well as midi magician on Hall of Fame. And then we're also going to have an 86 3-point shot, which is going to get you limitless range on bronze, as well as agent threes on silver. All right, so now take a look at these shooting highlights, man. Listen, you're going to be able to hit some pretty decent shots out at the 3-point line in isolation, spot up, does not matter, off the dribble, step backs, doesn't matter. You're going to be able to hit them out at the 3-point line. And then where things get nasty on this build is with that 93 mid-range shot. You're going to be super efficient and super deadly in that mid-range area when having access to badges like mid-range magician on Hall of Fame. And the one thing that I really do like about this build when playing in the rec center on it is that it is perfect to use when playing with randoms, because if you're playing with inside bigs that like setting screens, this is the perfect build. You can score at all 3 levels. You have a really good layup bag, so you can do floaters and stuff. This is the type of build that you don't really need to drive directly to the rim to get buckets on. And then 2 badges that I didn't get to mention just yet that are also really nice to have on this build are going to be your blinders and deadeye, and both of those badges are going to be on gold, which is very nice to have as a primary ball handler type of build to make sure that you can shoot somewhat contested, which is basically what those badges are for. And I think blinders also reduces your contest to some degree, but take a look at this right here. Sharp take, hit him with a step back wide open tray ball that just goes in, man. It's crazy. Now we already know how this goes, man. I couldn't show you guys all of those really great shooting highlights without giving you guys the jump shot that I have been using on this build and pretty much all of my swing builds this year. And that is going to be lower base Tracy McGrady. Release 1 is going to be Chris Mullin, and release 2 is going to be Luka Doncic. Now, the reason that I like this jump shot so much is because it has both an A+ release height and an A+ defensive immunity while still having an A release speed, which is super fast to have when having such high defensive immunity and release height. All right, so for the playmaking, we had to make sure that we made this perfect for a Tyrese Haliburton build. So for the pass accuracy, we went with a 91 so we can have the Tyrese Haliburton pass style, which you unlock at an 89. And then we went up to 91 so we can get gold touch passer, gold needle threader, because again, Tyrese Haliburton is an elite passer, so we had to make sure that we did it perfect. Then when it comes to the ball handle, we went with an 85 so we could get handles for days on silver, speed booster on silver, just a bunch of essential playmaking badges. And then for the speed with ball, we ended up going with a 75 so we could pretty much unlock all of the major dribble styles, which include your Magic Johnson dribble style, pro dribble style, whichever one you prefer to use, you can use on this build. Now moving on to the playmaking highlights, man, this is where this build shines, because like I mentioned, you are going to be an elite playmaker on this build. That 91 pass accuracy is some serious stuff, and the Tyrese Haliburton pass style is definitely the best passing style in the game. Now listen, man, there's been a lot of conversation and debate between players about like what's the best pass accuracy rating to go for, especially for like point guard builds. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I think 91 is perfect. I think 91 is the perfect amount of pass accuracy you should have on a point guard build. Now maybe that would be different if you're playing Park, and Park you could definitely work with just having a 75, maybe even an 85, 86 type of rating. But if you're playing 5v5 and you're playing point guard, you better have at least an 89 pass accuracy, because I'm telling you that Tyrese Haliburton pass style is some sick stuff. I even seen guards out here with like 60 pass accuracy, and I'm just sitting here thinking, why in the world would you have such low pass accuracy at the position where you're going to be handling the ball and passing the most? I understand some people don't like passing the ball, but at PG, you're going to be forced to pass at some point. I don't care how good you're scoring, they're gonna force you to pass at some point. Oh, and one thing I'd like to mention too with the playmaking, things start getting really nasty once you have like play take as well, because then play take is basically like pretty much all the playmaking takeovers combined from last last year, where one, you give everybody a shot percentage boost when they go up with a shot after they get the ball from you, and then secondly, they're gonna get more takeover if they make a shot with you having play take. It's just pretty nasty stuff. I really like using play take on the point guard builds, I'm not gonna lie. Now listen, man, I've been having people asking me for my dribble sigs, so here's pretty much every single animation I'm using in the game right now. You can see all my playmaking moves. Now, one thing I do want to mention is I have been rotating between Pro Dribble Style and Magic Johnson. You pick whichever one you like better, but everything else has pretty much stayed the exact same. And now let's move on to the defense on this build. All right, so for the defense on this build, we're going to have a 75 perimeter defense, which is going to get you clamps on bronze. We're also going to have a 60 steals so we can get interceptor on bronze. Tyrese Haliburton does get a decent amount of steals per game, but a lot of them are usually just passing lane steals, which is why we ended up only going with a 60. And now for the block, we ended up going with a 68 just so we could at least get chase down artist on bronze on this build. Tyrese Haliburton is 6'5", so we had to make sure he could get a little bit of block. I think he's averaging about half a block a game at this point, so he does get blocks at his position. Oh, I don't have a crazy amount of defensive highlights to show you guys, but again, man, the perimeter defense on this build is going to be good, and you're going to have a decent amount of speed on this build that I feel like you could guard most point guards when you're playing at the one. And that's the big thing too, is that since you're going to be playing point guard and you're not going to be playing with somebody who's going to play lock for you, you kind of need to be able to guard your own guy as well, which is why we had some decent defense on this build. As you can see, man, you can get some chase down blocks. All right, so now here's a look at the build fully maxed out. You can see the physicals down below, an 81 speed to get the silver speed booster, an 80 acceleration just to have some excel on the build. I think we also get gold spot finder. Then for the strength, we're going with a 65 so we can get fearless finisher on gold as well as physical handles on silver. 60 vertical, I believe the 60 vertical is for chase down artist on bronze, and then a 96 stamina. So as you can see with this build, everything's pretty much maxed out. There's not really a whole lot of wiggle room when it comes to attributes. It's pretty much just perfect almost. Now, if there were any changes that I would make to this build, maybe if you want to lower the pass accuracy down to 89, just get the Tyrese Haliburton pass style, or maybe find some way to go all the way up to a 96 so you can get things like Hall of Fame Dimer, which would be really nice to have on a Haliburton build. But I think with the way that this is designed, I think it pretty much covers every single aspect of his game perfectly. All right, so now coming out of the My Player Builder, you're going to get the shades of Kenny Smith, Tyrese Haliburton, and CJ McCollum, and you're going to get the build name Diming 3-level Threat, which I think is a perfect name for a Tyrese Haliburton build, and I was super happy we actually ended up getting his player shades as well. I think that's actually one thing that 2K's gotten a lot better at this year, is that when you try to make builds for specific NBA players, you usually get their player shades more often than not. But that's going to be pretty much it for today's video, man. I had a lot of fun playing on this build, and I got this video out in less than 24 hours because I saw how well Tyrese has been playing over the past few days, and I said I had to get this video out ASAP, and we ended up doing that. Got it out within less than a day. But yeah, man, that's going to be pretty much it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and yeah, I'm out of here, man. Peace.